And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Aaron Castro in Arizona. I'm joined this week. Victor Perez happens to be in Houston visiting some friends. And Brian Ray, editor-at-large for North America for the America's Rugby News. How are you doing tonight, Brian?
Couldn't be worse. No, not too bad. Not too bad. It's not frozen up here for once, so that's a bonus.
Well, that's helpful. Hanging out with the whistle.
Yeah, the whistle. Yeah, doing a little bit of that.
All I know is one time I'm like reading stuff and on my Twitter feed, Brian goes, "Hey, off for a few hours with the whistle." Because Brian Ray's a ref, so if you wonder what he does in real life.
That's right. I hand out cards for fun.
And then Cory is off in Iowa. He's in the control room and on Twitter, so hit him up for your questions and comments. But Cory, Victor, how's your week been?
Go ahead, Cory.
Oh, mine's been pretty fantastic. Yeah, no complaints. Just typical Iowa summers. So, practically 100 degrees and a lot of rain. Feels good, man. Makes the corn grow.
I thought you were a potato state.
Nope, corn state.
Come on, man.
Steak to make.
Boise, Idaho. Come on, man.
I wish. I'd have mountains if I lived out there. That'd be cool. I just have
potatoes.
like one big river. That's about all we got going for us.
Well, my part, guys, like Aaron said, I'm down in Houston, Texas. I'm visiting a buddy of mine, my buddy Edward. I know if he watches this, hey Ed, can't say I didn't say hi to you on live stream. I told you. So my buddy's going up to Iceland, University of Reykjavik, to do his masters of all things. So I guess it's gonna be like rather next to volcanoes and stuff in the capital. So. Where he goes to Europe, I came to visit him. So if you see, it looks really nice behind me. It's because I'm not in my apartment. I'm actually in a really nice 3-star hotel in Houston.
Only a 3-star.
I know.
It's not a high roller.
Exactly. That's all $1,000 could buy.
Wow, I can't believe you found the Red Roof Inn.
Dude, it's funny you said that. I actually stayed in the Red Roof Inn up in Hamburg, New York, close to Buffalo. I had a blast. I loved it. Really fun.
We got one of those too. You don't go there.
Roach Motel, man.
Oh, the one I was in, it was really nice. I was literally the only person of color in the whole room. So no place. Forget about that. It was really fun. I went to Dennis like for breakfast, and I was freaked out. I'm like, yo, like there's like way too many white people here. Like I was like.
You must be in the wrong part of town because Houston is like the most multicultural city.
No, that was up in Hamburg. No, Hamburg, upstate New York.
Hamburg, New York.
Okay. Hamburg, New York. Not in Houston, no, dude. It's like I see like a bunch of black brothers and a couple of Mexicans around. No. I'm talking about up in Hamburg, New York, right there by Buffalo.
Oh my. All right.
Houston's supposed to be like a freaking mini UN, right?
Oh yeah, Houston is the most multicultural city in America.
Seriously.
So, for those new to the podcast, each Monday night we discuss news and rumors from Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union competitions. Chance to discuss the issues, hear from the league, team leadership, and check in with all of you, our friends across the U.S. rugby scene, and especially tonight, our friends across the Canadian rugby scene.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Great
Canada, oh, Canada, I pray for thee.
Thanks, we need your prayers.
The bordering country we're not building a wall across.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet. Well, you might be. Not
yet.
A rough week.
Yeah. So just so you guys know what's coming up tonight, I think we're going to talk about some rugby here in a little bit. We've got some games to go over tonight. On tonight's show, we've got Austin versus Utah. We've got Seattle and Houston. We've got Glendale pretty much crushing NOLA. And we're going to take a look at the USA Rugby versus Russia. And maybe hit on some other international tests as well. So, Aaron, take us away, my friend.
So Seattle survives Austin 20-19. Early on, there seemed to be some issues at the hinge. Tiberio, he's played scrum half before, but really is normally a wing center. And I expected, and I know Brian expected, Shalom Suniula to move into the 9 spot since he's played there at the international level.
Is this where I chime in and agree?
Oh, either you disagree or throw.
Oh, I completely 100% agree. I think it was crazy that Shalom did not start at 9. I think Tiberio looked like a guy who was a winger who had to step in an emergency situation to play scrum half and didn't really look anything like a scrum half. He can pass the ball from A to B, but that's not really what a scrum half does. He had no box kicking game, anything like that. It was kind of labored passing. It wasn't quick, sharp delivery. I mean, we're a bit spoiled. We've seen Phil Mack obviously there with them, and he's been in good form. I just think it was a tactical mistake on their part, and I think it showed. He made some strange decisions, and it's not his fault. He went with his kind of natural instincts, being a finishing winger, kind of attacking player, and he's being asked to play a distributor's role. And to me, it just didn't work out at all. I don't know who are they up this week. It's Glendale.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they do. If I'm them, I switch to Suniula without question. I just thought it was nuts to play Tiberio there.
Yeah, I mean, I had asked a friend of mine who's a U of A guy, and he's a little bit ahead of Tiberio, so he'd watched Tiberio come through school, and he's like, I told that dude to learn how to play scrum half years ago, because apparently he spent a lot of time being injured when he played in the centers at U of A, which, I mean, so I guess Adam, shout out to you, buddy. He was right in that respect, because I was like, I personally had never seen Tiberio play anything other than wing and center.
Likewise.
So, early on, especially, was it 3 penalties in a row, or was it just 2? Seattle committed multiple infringements, and for a while it looked like Guillemon was going to probably score 30 points with his boot, and the first half was really ugly until Razalekas put that try in.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game. It was better than the one before against Houston, which was a complete stinker. The first half was pretty dull. Second half was a little better, but to me, it just didn't have a lot of zip to it. It was still a little bit flat. Seattle they made so many line breaks and just didn't score. I mean, how many? Shermer got a couple. Shermer got over the line and got tackled from behind. Who was that? Was Zinzan Elan put it. And Duchel, I don't know how many line breaks he made, at least 2 or 3, and they just weren't finishing them. Mm-hmm. They really should have put Austin away by, a good 15, 20 points, in my opinion. And they just didn't look super sharp aside from those line breaks. Just lots of little basic errors and mistakes. So, yeah, it was just one of those games. It wasn't my favorite game of the weekend, that's for sure.
I mean, I was looking at this game. It was very physical. I really liked Nakai Penny's performance for Seattle. It just sort of, I don't know, he just seemed like he was a kid having fun. And,
I thought he was a bit quiet, to be honest. I expected a little more from him. I thought he did really well coming off the bench in the last 2 games before that. Maybe it was the heat. I don't know.
I mean, he had line breaks of his own, and I mean, his tackles and what he did around the ruck was what really impressed me. So, I don't know. I would say they were flat, but in the second half is when things changed completely. I don't know if it was the wind or whatever it was, but Austin, they were done. They played some good defense, but
Austin really. They really started getting hammered in the scrum when Paddy Ryan went off. He was a one-man wrecking machine in there, and he came off, and all of a sudden their scrum went backwards. And as soon as your scrum starts going backwards, that just saps the legs out of the forwards, right? From then on, it was just downhill for Austin. It was pretty much done. I mean, you can't. They've got Chris Shade already playing, out of position at loose head prop. and then he's forced to go and play tight head prop. That's just crazy. The scrums have been such a lottery in Major League Rugby with who's playing where, and you just saw the effects. I just think that as soon as Paddy Ryan went off, it was noticeable. Their pack was just finished after that.
But I have to say, guys, even with all of that, all of those negative things coming from both teams, kudos definitely to the Seawolves from coming from an 8-point deficit, because at halftime was 16-8, and then they came to win by 1 point to 2019. So, all things considered, they got the W. That's what matters. They always cement their place at second place in the leaderboard or the ladder, whatever you want to call it. So at the end of the day, ugly win, but it's a win nonetheless. So I'll give them that at least.
So I guess the game I didn't watch until Saturday morning. So Glendale came back to the top. They had the bonus point win over Houston, 37-24. Maximo Deacheval and Harley Davidson cut this thing up. Dylan Fawcett, I think, being released from Eagles camp just for this match was very important for just the attitude that he can bring. And he really hadn't performed that well during the Major League Rugby campaign for him until last week. And then this week he had a really good game, and I think he's back in his Eagles form that he was during the ARC.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I completely, really. He really kind of had a slow season. I don't know if it was getting used to Glendale's style or whatever, but he just wasn't quite making the impact we're used to seeing. The last couple of weeks, though, he stepped up. Against Houston, I thought he was very good. And it's interesting, both he and Matthias, who we'll talk about later, both cut from the Eagles camp, and both of them looked like they had something to prove out there. I guess the question is, why didn't we see it earlier?
Well, Fawcett didn't get cut. He was just
released for this weekend.
He was just released
from the match day squad.
And from what I understand, Matthias is not back on. The reserves were Talutau and Lamosatelli and Fawcett.
Yeah.
So, although Matthias might be coming back
but they both definitely played like they needed to show something, or Gary Gold said something he wanted to see more from them, and I think we got it from both of them. But yeah, Fawcett had a very good game for Glendale. I thought he played well, and not much to say about Harley Davidson. 3 tries pretty much speaks for itself. He's been impressive.
Yeah, people are saying, hey, give that kid a cap, but one of the places we definitely have a long line is wing.
Yeah, he's not there yet, but he's worth keeping an eye on for sure.
So, scrimmaging in this game really was, pretty good from the SaberCats, and there's been a lot of talk about things going on with the SaberCats scrum, but for the most part, I think the connection was better with either Slater or Murphy, to be honest. But they did need some work around the breakdown. I thought Josefa a few times was kind of lost because a ball hit him hit him in the chest, like he wasn't looking at it. It was really weird.
Yeah, he didn't quite have the impact that maybe we thought he'd have, but maybe that's to be expected. His first start of the season, he hasn't played a whole lot of rugby since switching back from football. So, really, I guess he just needed a handoff from somebody.
So, I think this is the game where I've been pounding the Raptors on their depth and their and how they don't train nearly as often as some of the teams. But, all their Eagles Vice 1 were gone. And they showed why they're the Raptors.
I have to say, guys, that this was definitely my favorite game of the round. So I'm going to mention it later when we get asked that question. But definitely playing at home, the Raptors showed their dominance. And mind you, that was against a very emphatic Houston SaberCats team, which was losing 31-12 by halftime, but sort of came back and lost 37-24, a little bit more respectable. And as you just mentioned, Aaron, Harley Davidson, and Maximo Chaval were just eating people up, especially Harley. Definitely happy that he got man of the match honors once again. But this goes back to the reason why the Raptors are so dominant is the depth they have in their player pool. Even with all those great players that went to Eagles camp, this team still ended up getting a win and with a big margin on top of that too. So all things considered, it was great.
The thing I think you see with Glendale is that, obviously they pick their players well. They only bring in people, as Dave Williams says, people that fit in to what he's looking for. But they're one of those teams where players play above themselves in the team. It's like they have to live up to the Glendale Raptors reputation when they put the jersey on. Even looking at a guy, Cody O'Neill, how many people knew who he was a few weeks ago? I thought he went around. I think he's done pretty well for them, and in the capacity that he's been asked to perform. Mika Kruse has been playing all over the back line. He's been standing up. I mean, obviously he's a talented player. Even a guy like John Ryberg, who has been injured and hasn't played a lot this season, but he's really developed into a pretty formidable winger. So it's just, take one out and put another one in, and you might lose a little bit of, Eagles class on top. But, Max Dasheval looked pretty comfortable at 10, I have to say. That cross kick right at the beginning of the game was a good indication that Glendale were up for that one.
Oh, I mean, Dasheval brought something to 10. It was like they didn't lose it. They didn't lose anything, and they gained something. So, really,
I'm not even used to seeing Maximo play fly half that often, because I'm already used to seeing him as a fullback. So it was quite something seeing him play out of position and still just rip the other team apart, which is quite something. And by the way, guys, let me ask you, speaking of since I mentioned the depth in the player pool with the Raptors, those players that they put to replace the ones that went to Eagles camp, a lot of them, do any of them play often with the Merlins by any chance?
I don't think any of them do.
Not really. I think Brian Wanless played early on with the Merlins, but he was also playing with the Raptors at the same time. He just wasn't selected, but he's played a lot with the Raptors. Mm-hmm. Some of the guys, I think some of the guys, they expected more from their program than originally what actually came out. But it really hasn't been that much of a mix this year. Maybe it will be, later on, especially as guys come back from injury and need rehab starts, it might happen, but not really this year.
Speaking of the Raptors, whatever happened to the Georgian players that they had playing in the Merlins? Are still in
those
the
guys, so those guys play with the Merlins. They played with the Merlins pretty much all year. One of the Georgian guys did play at least, I think, 2 games. I need to look at the roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kendor something Ishvili.
Kerdikashvili, but he didn't. I don't think he's played any regular season games though.
So
I know it was something Ishvili.
But moving on to the last game of the weekend, San Diego defeated New Orleans 39-22. This, for me, it was sort of the ugliest of the 3 matches. San Diego responded to their thumping in Austin, and they face Austin again this week at home. So we'll see. I think that determines a lot of the playoffs right there. But for me, New Orleans showed a lot of heart in this match. The rugby gods have really been unfair to them with injuries. If you look at who's been taken out over this season, it's a lot of first-choice players that would start in a lot of places.
Yeah, I thought when I saw the lineups, I was a little worried about picking San Diego, but I was pleasantly surprised. To be honest, I kind of think that was their most impressive performance of the season, losing all those guys. I mean, pretty much, I think 2/3 of the starting lineup was either with the Eagles or sitting back in San Diego having a drink on the beach. And, they stepped up. They looked amazingly cohesive, to be frank, with so many new guys just thrown in there. I thought they did really well. They just overwhelmed New Orleans early.
And not only that, I'm sorry, and not only that, that was a vital win by the Legion to cement their place in at fourth place in the standings for them to go to the playoffs. So that was again super important win. And the goal, obviously, they tried their hardest. They were by halftime they were losing 22-10. Again, score ends up 39-22, which is a little closer, but still,
I was, especially up front for me, I was very surprised with Nate Silvia playing, because the last time when he'd come off the bench, I was really, very, like his resume, he's a very talented player, but I didn't really see that much before this weekend. So far this season, but he had a great game. One of their weapons that is just so hard to stop is that driving maul, which, that's where you get a prop try in the second half of the match from him. And I thought he did very well up against Hubert. I didn't. I think Hubert's had some really good performances, and I think this was an okay one, but he wasn't, being nearly as dominant as I thought he was going to be against Silvia because of how Silvia had played earlier in the season.
Yeah, well, Hubert's about 300 years old. He can't do it forever. I was impressed with Nate Silvia too. Again, same thing. When he came on last time, he looked a little intimidated. Maybe he just wasn't quite up to, the intensity of the match, but I thought he came through really well. Scored a try at the end. He played like 70 minutes or something like that. He played much of the game, so that was a very good performance from him.
And we, tag leader, fly half back again. It's kind of funny. They've got, how many fly halves do they have right now? They've got they've got tag leader Ben Sema. Kyle Rogers was on the bench from U of A. It's like they've got like 5 fly halves right now, and then you've got.
Are you counting Mason too?
Mungo Mason's not a fly half.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was.
A flanker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Flanker. I'm sorry. I'm far.
And then you've got guys like Tony Lamborn and Mungo Mason who've run into some visa issues. They've got a really talented squad it's just, I don't know. They've played weirdly throughout the season, and this sort of as Brian, you said, this was probably their most cohesive performance, and half the team is injured or gone.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't expect it, to be honest. I'm on my MLR picks at the USA Rugby site, and Curtis picked NOLA, and I picked San Diego, and I was nervous. I was nervous going in, but they did well. I have to give it to. I thought Matthias had a big game. I think he was a bit of a mismatch. Him at outside center against Tongawiya. It's been a little bit unfair on Tongawiya. Has been stuck in the forwards for most of the season to throw him into a game at outside center against an Eagle at a good one. Yeah, that's tough for him. He got scorched in the outside a couple times.
Yeah, that was Matias basically was like, I'm still here, man. I still want somebody gets injured, you're calling me up. He played
pretty emphatic.
He played pretty intensely, and that was really good. I really liked his performance on the weekend. Moving forward, so the United States defeated Russia in the Cold War. 62-13. Actually, it was very hot in Colorado. Talking to some guys is like the last time we played Russia is like, oh, I remember it was halftime and they started to melt in Sacramento. And I was like, oh, which is what happened really in this game. If you listen to what Gary Gold had to say after the match, he was really not pleased. One of his KPIs for this game was to enter the Russians 22-15 times and score. Not like just total, but they didn't enter the Russia 22, I think more than 6 or 7 times, and they didn't score each each one of those times. But offensively, we had a 9 try performance, 2 try performances from Joe Tafate and Marcel Brocky. So it was really up and down. There was for me, there was 2 periods. First in the first half, right at the beginning, about 10 minutes where we just played very poorly and got beat physically. And then we had that again in the second half, except that, Russia did not play well in the second half at all.
Yeah, it was pretty telling. I mean, those guys are used to playing in the frozen tundra out in Krasnoyarsk. So, I mean, it's quite a bit difference coming into the south. Russia didn't have a lot in this. I didn't expect a whole lot from them. I probably would have expected a little bit lower score, but hey, credit to the Eagles for making the most, really, of their opportunities. Like I said, slow start they got off to, but they recovered and, they blasted, 23 tries in the last 10 minutes, something like that. I mean, they just outclassed them, really. I mean, you look at and it's pretty, I guess, exciting as a time to be an Eagles fan. Looking at the team now, that they look like a professional side. They look like professional players for once, which is really cool to see after so many years of kind of, a few amateurs and a few pros and just kind of a knick-knack side thrown together. They look, sure, Gary Gold will be upset, and that's his job. He's a coach. He wants perfection. But, it's hard to complain about a 60-point game too much. Certainly from my point of view up north, I would have been okay with that performance.
There were some folks that thought, Paul Mullen starting at tight head was a bit of a gamble. And I've just been like, anyone who's listened to me or read what I've written, I've been pretty much down on Chris Bowman's form for a while. And part of that was like he played last summer injured. And he just did not look good. I mean, and then in the second half, I'm talking to a friend of mine. He's like, Bowman comes in and Bowman looks good. And I'm just like, what is going on? But Paul Mullen's 60-minute effort looked like a test level tight head.
Yeah, I thought he did well. He stayed in quite I think it was like 68th minute or something like that when Bowman came. It was pretty late. Which I think was really part of the plan, just by Gary Gold, just to have a good look at Paul Mullen and the situation. And I thought he did well. Did well in the scrums, did well in the loose. Didn't try and do too much. He just did his job, which is what he's supposed to do. And that's good. It's great for them to have to have another alternative. So now they've got him, they got Bowman, they've got Paddy Ryan, who's coming back to fitness and looking like a beast in the scrum, although he could probably lay off the pies a little bit. TT, of course, can play loose head or tight head, depending on what they've got.
Dino Waldron, whenever he comes back.
Big Dino. It's they've got some options, so it's good.
I would be a bit more confident with the rest of this tour if Dino was on the squad. But I know it was mentioned on the broadcast that he was in Colorado. Yes, Dino was in Colorado. However, he's not cleared to play because he's
he had shoulder surgery.
He's recovering from shoulder surgery. I was like, guys, he's injured,
Yeah.
But so tell us about the game that was played in front of 12,000 people, but it looked like less because
there wasn't a game there. There was no contest. Scotland walked in, they trampled us, and they went home.
You guys looked all right
I think you're smoking something really strong if you think
scoreline looked good for about 50 minutes.
Listen, as a Canadian, and having watched every game for the last forever, it gets really tiring to hear the same old post-game report of, hey, guys, we were really brave in defense. We tackled our hearts out again and again and again.
48-10, right? What's the score?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. The wheels fell off. The wheels fell off.
We offered nothing in offense. The one try we got was a penalty try. Okay, we made something there, and there was an overlap. If Rory Jackson didn't have a brain fart there, he might have actually made the tackle and stopped the try. We had one penalty goal at the beginning of the game, and that's it. We didn't have anything else. We didn't even have another penalty attempt other than that. We really looked completely I don't know, thoughtless going forward, kicked the ball away too much. In defense, I thought we were completely complacent. We were happy to sit back and just let them run at us all game. I mean, yeah, sure, they got some big ball runners, and it's not easy going against guys like that. But I thought we had no line speed. I thought we had no urgency. There's a couple guys out there. Olmsted is always trying to make a mess of every tackle and breakdown. But I mean, I don't know if we won any collisions in that game. It was just, I saw very little to get excited about. The scrums were okay, but are we going to survive? Are we going to qualify for the World Cup with a scrum and a bunch of guys who just want to tackle for 80 minutes? Granted, we've got lots of injuries.
It depends on who's the reperchage,
Jeez. Yeah, it was pretty disheartening from my perspective. Now, thankfully, we've got Russia coming up. Surely we'll do better against them. If we don't beat them, then
we have a problem.
Does Phil Max stay in camp with Canada the rest of the way?
That's a good question. Gordon McCrory is now injured, so he's out.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop asking that question.
So, and Seattle's qualified, so it's not as big a deal for them, although I'm sure he'd like to be back, because he's the coach. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. Maybe somebody out there watching, if they know, send us a tweet, give us an insider report. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd love to see Andrew Ferguson get a start. I think he's done well every opportunity he's been given. And I can't understand why he's constantly being put in the game with 2 minutes to go. That's a real bugbear of mine about Canadian selections, is why Ray Barkwell and Phil Mack are still in the game in the 75th minute of a blowout. Why are we not putting in? What's the point of bringing in Eric Howard if he's not going to play?
That was I was like,
that's
rugby is an 80-minute game. Rugby is an 80-minute game, and you have 8 subs. Use them.
It's not like it was a 2-point game. We were desperate to hang on or anything. I mean, the game was gone. It was long gone. Why not give these guys a run against Tier 1 opposition?
Well, I mean, they more than made up for it. You guys played 5 minutes of extra time.
Yeah, should have ended it.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, guys, going back with the Russian team that play USA just now, I'm looking actually at the line out, and of the 15 starters, 9 play with NSA.
NSA, yeah.
Exactly, and then 2 play with Krasny Yar, 2 play with VVA, which is the team from Monino, and 1 guy plays in Moscow and Slava. But the whole team, for the most part, is that one. The NSA. And then everyone else, and look what happened.
Well, the NSC is the team that plays in the
challenge. Yeah, exactly. Well, excuse me, the Continental Shield now.
So kind of makes sense.
That's right.
But
the Challenge Cup. That's right. Not in the Challenge Shield. That's the one.
Yeah, and then Kana gets on a train and takes the Trans-Siberian Railway to get there, and then plays, and it's literally frozen tundra. That's a great video. Whenever people tell me they don't play in the snow, I just pull that one up.
To be fair to Russia as well, they were missing Andrei Ostrikov, who's their best second row by a long way.
Yeah,
they were missing Victor Gresev, who's got 98,000 caps, and a whole bunch of guys. Denis Simplikovich is their big 6'5" winger. He's at the 7 side. Vladimir Strashko, I don't know if he'd really be first choice in the side. Herman Davidov,
maybe they'll have less visa issues when they travel to Canada.
Well,
by the way, Brian, let me ask you: is Astrakov healthy? Because it seems to me that the Russian team never puts him on.
Pretty sure he was supposed to be in the States, but got caught in immigration.
Because he's coming from Sale.
There was a player that got, I don't know which player it was. I think it was Ostrakov that got caught in immigration.
Oh, dude, because
I don't know I don't know why. But that was the story.
Okay.
I don't think it was Ostrakov. He wasn't training with the side when they were over. They were training in the UK before they came over, and he was not with it. Ostrakov just doesn't really show up for the team much, just because he's with Sale all the time, and he wants his time off. He comes in for the big games.
I assume it was the Russian Union that doesn't want to play him often, because Russians love to play their guys from their league and really not bother with the guys that left the country for whatever reason. Because it's the same thing in soccer. They got all the guys from their league. No one really from the other teams.
Osterkov was there for the World Cup qualifier, so
I remember.
I think it's just a matter of him taking a break. That's all. Him committing to those games and sitting out June, and then he'll be back next year, I guess, in the build up to the World Cup.
Oh no, yeah, he has to. Definitely has to. Guys, by the way, another topic that we need to talk about, which we didn't mention pre-starting, is the Under 20 Trophy qualifier, which is happening this week. Canada, USA.
Tomorrow at Texas A&M, and then Saturday, I think it's midday. I'll be at that game it's at Rice, and then as soon as that game's over, I'll be heading over to the Old Maroon Tailgate with our friend Grant Cole. And then going up to the press box when this game finally kicks off at 9 local. It's late for when the test kicks off, so that'll be fun.
So wait a minute. So the kids are playing tomorrow Tuesday and on Saturday?
Yeah, they play a doubleheader. Okay. Or not a doubleheader, but a 2-game series. So
on the same week, though.
So yeah. Aggregate winner goes to the Junior World Trophy
up in Romania.
And then, but I was asked by our boy over at BC Rugby News today if it was going to be broadcast at all.
It is not,
and it's not.
Neither game.
Neither.
What? I don't know about Saturday, but definitely not tomorrow.
Wow, dude, that sucks.
That's
like the future right there.
This is what happens when you sell things to.
I was going to say, I think this is a fallout from a certain, company that lost a lot of money.
Dude, that sucks. Dang it, dude! I had so much fun watching the one from 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I watched the one I watched last year when Rugby Canada had it on Facebook Live. So there was that.
I think it was gorgeous. Oh well, so tell me, who are we cheering for that one?
Obviously the United States.
Thank you. Right? What do you say to that, Brian? You think the Junior Maple Leafs have it?
I'm just looking at the lineups. I haven't even seen the lineups yet, to be honest. Where's the? I thought the U.S. starting lineup was already announced.
I'm pretty sure I saw it today. Or
maybe
wait, no, that wasn't. That wasn't the starting lineup. I don't think because I asked about it.
Yeah, no, the Canadian lineup was named today.
Saw that.
There's a couple good names in there. Quentin James, for those of you who are familiar with the name Mike James, former Canadian lock, Stade Francais. Pretty good player. His son, Quentin James, is at the Perpignan Academy. He's playing in the second row. He's a good player. Jack McRogers, Ontario Arrows hooker. He's in the side. Tyler Rowland, he's a big UBC Thunderbirds tight head prop. He's massive. He went and spent some time in the Crusaders Academy. James O'Neill, the open side from UVic. He's our next great hope. He's a pure groundhog type flanker. He's a good player. Is he captain? He's probably captain of the side. Will Percilia, I'm pretty high on him. He's the UBC scrum half. Used to go by Will Percilia McDougall, so I don't know what happened to the McDougall part, but Percilia is, I guess, easier to say. He also spent time down in the Crusaders Academy, one of those little, 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. I think he's from Hong Kong originally, with French-Canadian parents. I think he's a really good player. I'm pretty high on him. Let's see who else they got in here. Jack McCarthy, left winger, is about 6'5", from Newfoundland. He's fast. Elias Ergas from UBC, he's pretty fast in the other wing. Vertkas, another UBC guy in the midfield, he's a hard runner. And Privos, the fullback from UVic, is a really good kicker. So, there's some good prospects on there. I haven't had time to watch any, or actually, I don't even know if the video's up there. I think it is, their warm-up games. So I'm not really sure how they're going to go, but they've got some talent there. Of course, the All-Americans have some decent players too.
Yeah, there's the All-Americans. It's a pretty good roster. What we're missing is like Cal guys, and from what I understand, Cal guys are always, they're allowed to go. But for some reason they just choose not to. Maybe I don't know what the pressure is because Jack Clark says that he's more than willing to let guys go up. So, but they don't. Devin Short played on Sunday, so I don't expect him to play on Tuesday. So he played on Sunday for the San Diego Legion. But you've got some big names. David Iunu from Toulouse Academy. He signed a 3-year deal with Toulouse, so he'll be there for a while, which is really good. Ruben De Haas from the Free State Cheetahs, he just signed a 2-year deal there. And Bronson Tellez from U of A. Sam Walsh from Scots College in New Zealand is in. And then so you got William Wegespack from NOLA Gold, Max Dacey.
That's a huge second row.
And who else is from Glendale on here? And Alec Letty, who I don't believe I've seen, and also Ryan James from the Glendale Raptors Academy as well. But I don't know if the qualifier on Saturday is being televised, but I do know that I will be there, so I'll tweet about it.
By the way, guys, it just hit me. The game is tomorrow. I'm in Houston. Why don't go?
It's in College. It's in College Station at Texas A&M. But if you want to go, it's free. And
I'm looking at the thing. I'm telling I'll tell my buddy Edward to see if he wants to go, and
you're hired.
I'll show him a bit of. I'll let my buddy know. See if he
live tweeting from Earful of Dirt.
Okay. So guys, I make no promises to the listeners, but I will definitely have my phone. I'll charge it so it doesn't happen like it happened the other time, and I'll live tweet from our account to the game on Tuesday because I'm
do a little bootleg broadcast for us with your iPhone.
I'll see. Well, I actually have it. It's Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, whatever. But I will do it from this one. I'm actually gonna be here only until Thursday, so I'm not gonna be here for the Saturday game because I really wanted to go to Scotland, USA, but unfortunately I couldn't. But I'm definitely gonna go to the game tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll take my buddy and my wife over there, so the three of us can go and watch the game.
So, running through some accolades this week. The Major League Rugby Player of the Week was Harley Davidson. Hat trick performance. Pretty much nothing to say there. And I forgot what the play of the week was, so we'll move on. What was your guys' game of the week? I guess Seattle at Austin for me, but most of these games, it was kind of rough for me.
Well, I mentioned before, guys. Again, the Glendale Raptors game definitely was my favorite one. Them just going over the SaberCats. So yeah, that was definitely my favorite one.
Yeah, Glendale, Houston for sure. And really, it's credit to the SaberCats for doing something in the second half. Otherwise, it would have been just a brutal beatdown.
Seriously, man, dude, I feel for the SaberCats. We had such high hopes for that team, and the league starts, drops. Dang it!
I was watching the game, and I'm on demand, and I was asking Grant. I was like, "Is Elkins really 240 pounds? He don't look 240 pounds. He looks like maybe 220." And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "That dude is cut up. You could put another."
I don't know what you're looking at, but he looks 240 pounds to me. The guy's massive. Him coming in with like 15 minutes to go, scores 2 tries. I just looked at that, and as I was updating the scoring leaders, I realized those are his only tries of the season. Before the season, he is one of the guys I expected was going to really impress, and he's hardly even seen the field. He's hardly seen the ball. I think that's been a major problem for Houston. The last 15 minutes, they move the ball, they use width, and they just use those weapons that they have, and they haven't been able to do that this season for whatever reason. And it's just frustrating to see that they had potential to win, they just fell flat.
Yeah. So week 8 predictions. Seattle at Austin was 20-19. I had Seattle -2 on that, so not bad. Josh had Austin -3, and then Nick had Seattle -7. And Corey, where the heck did you pull this one?
Yeah, well, So here's the thing. I think just about all of my scores last week were probably, I don't know. I may have been possessed. I may have been drunk.
Well, one of them you were close. So
it was not a great weekend of predictions for me. So let's just put it that way. I had Seattle at minus 14 for my guess for last week. I felt like they were going to go down there and handle things, and I mean they did ultimately handle it, just not quite as well as I thought they would. So,
oh, you mean you thought they would win by 14?
Yeah. So the minus is on lines. It's like a betting line. So minus.
You guys are going weird.
Minus is who's favored.
You know, a normal person would say Seattle plus 14.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're Vegas over here.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we're not normal. Let's put it that way. No, it's okay, Cory. All we had to do is just erase that 4, and boom, look. Now it's -1.
Thank you, Victor. You got my back. Thank you so much.
So next game was SaberCats at Glendale. Glendale wins 37-24. I was way off. I had Glendale -5. Josh had Glendale -7. And
Nick had it by 3.
Had Houston -3, so he was way off. And the closest one was actually Cory.
Dang it.
Well, closest without going over, I think I'd lose. I said Glendale was going to win by 30.
Dang.
They did not.
Not that many.
I don't know. Things got weird. Honestly, they're not getting any more normal this week. So when we get to that.
So the last game of the week was San Diego defeated NOLA 39-22. I thought NOLA was, they had some, like Maupin was, running healthy. Elof was running healthy. I thought things would be okay. And, San Diego wouldn't be able to deal with the humidity. And apparently I was way wrong. I had NOLA -1. Josh had San Diego -5. Nick had NOLA -3 and Cory.
NOLA -5. So it sounds like Josh was the big winner on that one.
Yeah. So, as always, more than willing to be wrong every week. But did okay. I'm at least getting 2 right each week instead of 0.
So the conclusion is we suck. Well, you suck because I wasn't in last week.
So week 9, we've got 2 games on Saturday. They are not at the same time.
Thank God.
So NOLA at Utah is the first game. I've got Utah -7. Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Utah. By about 7 sounds about right.
I'll go different, guys, and I'll go NOLA just to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'll say by 10.
Okay, I'm gonna go Utah by 14 then.
Cool. You're gonna see me lose all this most likely, but I'm gonna go different from everyone else because if they win, then I'll say I was right and you guys were all wrong.
So no. I have transactions there. There weren't transactions this week. Seattle at Glendale. I've got Glendale -2, unless Bill Mack comes back, and then I'll probably
put it by 4.
Seattle by 4.
Like what happened with the play in Starfire.
So
Brian, go ahead. What you got?
Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, it's depends who Seattle plays at 9, really. If Phil's back, that's a big boost. I might be tempted to lean towards Seattle. Without Phil, you got to go with Glendale. So tentative pick for now, I'm going to go Glendale, and I'm going to go Glendale plus 7. So +7 meaning they win by 7, not Vegas rules.
Okay, cool. Well,
yep.
I'm going to go Seattle, guys. Again, I'm going to go different from everyone else. I'm also going to go by converted tribe. So Seattle winning by 7 points.
Okay, so here's where things get weird. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is going to be a tie game.
The first one in Major League Rugby history.
First one. And this is going to set up the championship game in San Diego where Seattle and Glendale are going to play again. So I think that would be a fantastic way to lead into the playoffs. I really do.
Dude, I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great game either way.
I would love that.
The final game of the weekend is Austin Elite at San Diego Legion on Sunday. I'm going to Austin -5 because really they've only lost one guy from that squad, and that's Henko.
Mm-hmm.
So they tore him up the last time. So I think it's going to be a bit higher scoring on both sides because, I don't expect San Diego to just get shut down at home.
I think San Diego has the bit between their teeth now, and I'm picking them to beat Austin and earn their playoff spot. I'm going to pick San Diego by 5.
Well, guys, I'm going to go San Diego as well. I'll give it by 10. Let's go 10.
And I'll throw in San Diego by 7.
There you go.
So it looks like, Aaron, you're standing alone on that one.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if it happens. And by the way, guys, real quick, before we move on, because we got a question by a friend of the show, Liam Poach, down on the chat, which we haven't mentioned, so I'm just gonna bring it up right now. It's a question regarding the NOLA score with the Legion. The question is, and I quote: "Do you guys think NOLA losing the way they did essentially handed San Diego the playoffs?" My answer is yes.
Yeah, for sure. Because although they're still mathematically possible to make it, Austin has to win. And San Diego can't get a bonus point the rest of the way. They have to lose. And then Utah also has to lose and not get a bonus point after this weekend.
Yeah, New Orleans is out. Forget it. They're done. They're mathematically in it, but they're done.
Yeah, because, they play Utah this week, so that means they would have to beat Utah by a good margin to get the 4 points and then the bonus point. And then, Utah would have to not lose to San Diego the next week. So, but, yeah. So I think it's going to be – everything sort of runs through San Diego right now for those last 2 spots.
Coolio.
Because they really control the destiny by playing Austin and Utah, the last 2 on their schedule. So, moving on, we'll do the USA versus Scotland preview and then Canada versus Russia preview by Brian Ray. So for me, I think at the tight head position, we've got Paul Mullen shoring that up. He performed pretty well against Russia. Gary Gold's he's a consistency guy. He doesn't make a lot of changes. I think James Hilterbrand may have broken his wrist. That update hasn't come out, but I know he had an HIA, but he was also holding on to his wrist during when he came out. So that leaves us Joe Tofate, and then Olive Khalifi had his eye gouged. So I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. So I think that brings T. Lamosatelli in at loosehead. And I think T. Lamosatelli is going to start, and that gives you a crazy front row with Paul Mull, with Lamosatelli, Tofate, and Mullen for one of the first times we've ever had like that. The plan is to play a continuous attacking style with 2 fly halves on the pitch at fullback and at 10. So just continue pressuring the opposite side, pushing it deep. This is what I think. If Scotland has a bad day and we play out of our mind, we've got a shot. If we're off by any stretch, we could get run out of the building. So
I think it'll be a heck of a lot closer than the game in Edmonton. Yeah, I would agree. I think the USA is a dark horse in this one. They could, if they pick it up another notch from where they were against Russia, then and they've got a shot. Scotland really isn't that great. They're, obviously this is like their, second, third string guys pretty much straight through. They've lost Fraser Brown probably for this week. They've lost Lee Jones in the wing. They called in W. Fife, I think. They're okay, but they're nothing special. They're not doing anything magical or anything. They're playing straightforward rugby. Those driving mauls were an embarrassment. I don't think you guys are going to concede like that. And certainly you can throw up Savetta to at least disrupt the line and throw. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a good game. I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, guys, what I'm expecting is to see that the Eagles are going to put a good couple of minutes, and then Scotland's probably going to just run them over. I really hope it doesn't happen, because I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that negative Nancy.
Can you see Paul Lasicki getting run over all game? Really? Seriously?
Definitely not by no Scotland.
I don't want to see him up against Scotland. I want to see Scotland.
So look at how big this team is, Victor. And they just played in altitude and in the heat. So they're coming down to sea level. Yes, they're going to play in a humid-ass place, but Scotland's coming down to sea level and playing in a humid-ass place too. So the weather effects are pretty much the same. And, these guys are used to playing in humidity. Ours are. I don't know about theirs.
No, definitely not.
Listen, Vic, you got to keep in mind that the Canadian team that we threw out there, half the guys hadn't hardly played a game of rugby in weeks. Guys, our domestic guys played 2 warm-up games against the Arrows, a few minutes here and there.
Courtesy of the Canadian Rugby Union.
Talk about that decision. But, versus Major League Rugby, which is a pretty significant advantage for you guys right now. So I would not be worried about them getting blown out. If they get blown out, I would be shocked, frankly. I think it'll be a very close game.
Dang it. Okay. So
the Maple Leafs versus the Russians. What do you got?
Yeah, everyone can't wait to watch that game. Oh, man. I got to pick Canada in this one. I can't imagine they actually lose to Russia. Well, I can, but I will dare not to. I'll be interested to see what the selections are like this week. I'd love to see some different guys play, but again, maybe they just want to get a win, secure some confidence ahead of the USA game. So I don't know how they're going to pick the team, really. Apparently they were suffering from some illness ahead of the Scotland game. No doubt that didn't help. Hopefully they'll be cleared up this week. Yeah, I think Canada probably wins this by about I don't even know, man. The offense was so bad. Can they even score 10 points? I'll pick them by 10 points over Russia, but I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. I think it's going to be not very exciting. A lot of bad mistakes from both sides, I think.
I think the match should go the way of the Canadians. I think I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. I think after that whole losing to Scotland, then playing a team the level of Russia, I mean, it's like the equivalent of seeing the Flash running, and then you get used to how fast it goes, and then you see a turtle. So that's I'm gonna put it that way. That
the Russians are higher ranked, right?
Yes, they are. But since they play the fifth best team in the world, playing the 19th best, and Canada being I think 21st now in the world, I think they may be able to get over the Russians. I think. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I've spent a lot of time with Canadians, especially the Sevens guys. So I really root for Les Rouges a lot, but it's really, I don't know. You guys aren't giving me hope, Brian. Do
I look very hopeful to you? I'm wearing the hat, but it's frustrating. It's been frustrating. A little while ago, I was saying it was a frustrating few months. It's a frustrating few years. Canadians just want to see some decent rugby coming out of these guys. And you can't blame the players. The players are giving up. They're doing what they can do. We've got injuries. We don't have a domestic platform. There's so much that needs to be worked on, and the confidence just isn't where it needs to be right now. I just want to see somebody make some big hits for once. I want to see some offensive tackles. That used to be kind of the signature of the Canadian side for years. Didn't matter what happened when you played Canada, you were gonna get physically beat up, whether it was Danny Baugh or Al Sharon or Rod Snow or Jeb Sinclair or Jamie Cudmore. I mean, these guys just roll off the tongue, and now you're like, man, who's gonna make a big hit? So I just want to see a couple big hits in defense, get some confidence back in the side, give some kind of positive signal to Canadians that we're moving in the right direction ahead of these repechage in the fall. Man, I think a lot of people are overconfident for the repechage, as they were against Uruguay, and I hope they're not taking it lightly, because man, it would suck to get embarrassed at the repechage.
Seriously.
So, moving on to tweet of the week.
Yeah, and since Dan's not with us tonight, I'll go ahead and cover the tweet. And this is going to be a first for the EOD podcast. I am going to do an entirely emoji tweet. And this one we have to thank one of our own for. This tweet was produced following the USA-Russia match this weekend by Aaron Castro. And following that game and the U.S.'s strong win, he simply said, I say simply in quotation marks, "Rugby ball, rugby ball, rugby ball, rugby ball, fist, 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 fire, 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 American flag, 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 bald eagle, 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 bald eagle." And for that, he has gotten 14 hearts and 6 retweets. So congratulations, Aaron.
Oh,
you
my
won the
goodness.
internet.
You literally on the internet.
That one had a lot of interaction. That was nice.
I'm sure.
So moving on to try to wrap this up so everyone can go to bed. News, views, and abuse. So I guess we got abused this week if you're a union member. Doug Schoeninger sued USA Rugby. On Tuesday, filed a complaint in Boulder County District Court. You can find the complaint in full on earfulofdirt.com. Boom.
And who is Doug? And what's this about, Aaron?
So Doug is the former proprietor of North American Rugby LLC, which did business as Pro Rugby USA. They were the only sanctioned professional rugby league ever in the history of the United States that got off the ground. So that was Pro Rugby. They had 5 teams, and then all of a sudden, Martin Anayi's saying, "Hey, we're going to do Pro 12 in New York," and Will Chang sort of encouraged the comments, I guess, maybe not. But, Pro 12 has said for like 4 or 5 years that they were going to expand to the U.S. So, of course, Will Chang is probably saying, "Yeah, sure, man, sure," because he knows nothing's going to happen. And then, the next thing you know, vendors aren't paid and the league gets canceled. And then, they stop playing players even though they had approved off-season plans through the league, and then it gets shut down December of 2016. And we've sort of been waiting for this lawsuit for like a year and a half. Yeah. And I guess if you read the whole complaint, he's asking for restitution and a sanctioning agreement to be enforced for 3 years, plus the years that he didn't have a league. Yeah, there's a lot of claims for relief in there that are somewhat interesting, and some of the things that I don't know if that are just shoddy and false, because here's one that just sticks out to me. Nigel Melville did not take an executive director role with the RFU. He's the director of high performance, or professional rugby. Director of professional rugby is his actual title. He's not an executive director. So, so there's that debacle. It's going to cost us some money. It's going to be interesting. But since it's in Boulder County, we will send our very own Josh Fredland on the 8th of August for when the next action is supposed to take place to report on the matter. Jeremiah Johnson, the Congress rep to the USA Rugby Board of Directors, survived a recall vote last Monday. That's a little surprising considering Will Chang and Rob King had been told to get out, and they got out. Then you have the Major League Rugby Championship Series tickets now available for purchase. It's looking like Glendale is probably locked in as the 1 seed right now. If the Seawolves win this week over Glendale, then they'll be locked in as the 1 seed. But those two teams have both clinched the playoffs. So there's going to be a pretty awesome festival of rugby at Infinity Park on the 30th of June to end the month. And then Dean Howes was on KUTV2 News in Salt Lake City. And, it was a person-to-person interview, with whom I forget. But he clearly stated that Season 2 will run from January to May with playoffs in June of 2019. They said there will be 10 members, and they said something about 10 to 12 teams, which is interesting to hear. So if it's 10 members and 12 teams, that means 2 of those teams would be owned by current members of the league. So that would be interesting. As far as views, news, and abuse go, Cory, off to you.
Yeah. So it's that special time of the week again where we get to take questions from Bob. Unfortunately, last week we had to skip this, so we're going to make good on at least, I think, one of the questions that came in last week. So let's get to it. And actually, this is perfect that we held this one for this week since, Brian, you're with us. Russ the Man 16 wants to know, any more rumblings on what's happening in Vancouver? I'm assuming he's talking about Major League Rugby expansion.
Nothing. That's the short answer. Last I heard, there were still 2 bids on the go. As far as I know, neither one of them has been granted exclusivity of any kind. At one point, there was talk of possibly a 3rd bid. I haven't heard anything more on that, so I'm assuming that didn't happen. I haven't heard anything. Obviously we all want a team to go there, but at this point, it's pretty hard to see Vancouver putting a team together in time for 2019. It would be pretty a big rush job. I think Canada's only hope at this point for 2019 is the Arrows. And even then, I'm not even sure if that's going to happen right now. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I wish I had better news. Sorry.
Aaron, you got anything on that one?
Same. I got nothing really to add.
Excellent. All right, moving along. LL Rugby 1 wants to know, aside from player development, is the league also actively developing officials?
I don't know about the league, but I hope the league starts to, because Brian can really comment on the depth of officials we have for this level, and it's really shallow. But the entirety of the San Diego Legion last week or 2 weeks ago went through ref level 1, as a team. So that was cool. I don't know. But, hopefully.
What was it? I kind of missed the.
So will the league develop officials?
I don't think that's the responsibility of MLR, frankly. I think that's the responsibility of USA Rugby's match official high performance group. I don't. It's not really, the league shouldn't be developing officials insofar as they're giving them opportunities to officiate high-level games. That's really the Department of UFC.
So Premiership has their own officials, right? That obviously came up through the game, but in the US,
they're under the RFU. The RFU, they're on the RFU panel. The RFU appoints them. They're just paid by the Premiership.
So if we look at this in the American sphere, the leagues develop their own officials. For the most part, they start elsewhere, but once they make it to that, once they reach selection to those leagues, they pretty much just ump MLB games and ref.
But I mean, I know you like to make this comparison a lot, North American rugby or North American sport, typical North American sport to rugby and so on. But in the model that we have where international rugby trumps all, as we can see, and they've been trying to explain to people why top players are not playing for their clubs during the season. Because of that model, really, you're developing match officials for international rugby. You're not developing them for Major League Rugby, right? Major League Rugby is the vehicle to get to international rugby, just as it is for the players. So I don't know. For me, it's I know they've got their own separate allocations kind of thing, but it's basically the same people anyways, right? So personally, I don't think it's their response. If they're perfectly fine if they want to run, ref clinics. I mean, they're bringing in Leal from the RFU, and they've got Rogan from Australia in there. Chris is coming down. Asmus is coming down from Canada. So they're bringing guys in already. So, I mean, they're having their own little conversations and reviews and stuff like that. I'm sure they're doing some development on themselves. But I don't think beyond that it's I mean, what are they going to do, really? What are they going to just run a referees conference or something? I mean, what is MLR going to do aside from bringing them in? What can they do to develop match officials?
Fair enough. Anybody else have any final thoughts on that one?
Nope.
Not really.
Okay. Last question comes from Bob himself. Bob B. Boberson asks, who will coach Seattle next season? This is a thinly veiled question, as in, has Phil Mack earned a second season, and will he get it?
I mean, in regards to Phil earning, I've had that conversation. It's like an I don't know, and I said, Phil has done pretty good at being a dual roleist.
I think the answer is a resounding yes, and I will bet people money that he will be there next year.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest with each other, guys. Phil and the Seawolves as a whole were not dealt the best cards this season.
I mean, as a player, he's going to be there. I think it's specifically.
I think he'll be the coach.
The team?
Yes, as a coach is what I mean. As a coach, yes, and of course, as a player, of course, definitely. I mean, yeah. I mean, we already talked about his praise. I mean, we talked about his praise.
Like first,
as a coach, a player coach is what I mean.
I asked the question, sort of in the air. I was like, how many more years does Phil want to play?
Well, that's the question. I don't think the question is. I don't think the question is will he be there as a coach. I think the question will be will he continue as a player. I think is the question. I think he'll certainly be there as a coach.
Because I think he's done well as a coach. Does he want to play that much longer? I think part of it's going to be tied to Canada qualifying for the World Cup. If Canada qualifies for the World Cup, I think we know where he stops. If they don't, I think we know where he stops as a player.
I wouldn't even be that certain. He's accomplished everything he has to accomplish. If Canada qualifies, let's assume they qualify in November, what are they going to do in the World Cup? He's basically going as a tourist. They're not challenging for anything, maybe trying to win one game or something, he's already been at the World Cup. He's won 50 caps. He's won 50, appearances in the World Series. What else does the guy have to do in rugby as a player? He's done everything. At this point, I think his future is in coaching. Hey, I won't begrudge him if he wants to stick around through the World Cup. Hey, great. But I think he's probably seeing that it's getting close to the end as well. And I'm sure his body is telling him, hey, man, how long are we going to keep doing this? I mean, his knee is pretty much taped together every game. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Hey.
All right. Fantastic. Well, guys, I think that wraps it up for the night. So, Victor, you want to take us home, my friend?
Yes. Actually, before I do, let me ask a question myself to Brian, since we have it on. So, Brian, in regards to the Ontario Arrows, are they any closer to be announced themselves as an MLR team? And if they are, do you know probably when they're going to reach that decision?
I wish I could answer more. It will be sometime this month that we'll hear. So we're 10 days into June. So it won't be more than a couple weeks till we hear one way or another. So I guess that's a good thing. I guess it's good to know. Whether they're going to apply or not. I don't have an answer whether they are or not. They've done everything they could possibly do due diligence wise. So at this point, it's just, do they want to pay the bills?
Of course. Okay, then. Well, thank you for answering the question. Okay, guys. So I think with that, we're going to come to an end of another great episode of the Earful of Dirt Major League Rugby podcast. That was episode 40. By the way, we didn't really mention it in the show because, I mean, we really don't talk much about international rugby unless it pertains USA or Canada. But I hope everyone enjoyed the great June window that we just had this past week. Some great games. Of all of them, the one that I felt the most was the England-South Africa result, losing by 3 points. So
I was watching it. I saw the score because I dropped someone off at the airport. And I saw what the score was, and I was like, okay, I got to rewind a little bit at the beginning because it was like 24-3 or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I tweeted or I mentioned on my buddy's Facebook page, and I was like, so Rassie is not the Springbok whisperer. And then
there we go. That's the same.
Then back to Clerk goes off.
Yes. Oh my God! And it just all of a sudden the wave just changed, and the Springboks just went over the English. And I mean, kudos to them. They came back from a 21-point deficit to come in and win by winning by 3 points. So all things considered, are great for them. Also, congratulations to the Australians because they beat the Irish. I wasn't happy about that. I actually wanted the Irish to win, but whatever, it's what it is. And yeah, so I only watched those 2 games so far. Don't tell me about the other ones. I'll watch them as the week goes along. But we're definitely gonna have another great week of international rugby, and crossing my fingers that USA does great with Scotland, and if Canada loses to Russia, I lost all hope with the Maple Leafs. So and I don't want that. I really don't. But anyways, guys, going back to the end of the show. So make sure to subscribe to our channel, Earful of Dirt podcast on YouTube, and we're live streams at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time for me today, since I'm down in the central area of the country. That will be at 9 p.m. Central. Make sure to also check out our website, earfulofdirt.com, where we are writing posts about every MLR game, and also from our very own Aaron Castro, some posts about the USA Eagles games. So you're gonna see those the 3 coming up. Of course, the one that just passed with Russia, the one coming this week with Scotland, and the one after that with Canada. I can't wait for that one, of course. Of course, make sure to follow our social media accounts. All of them are Earful of Dirt on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, with the podcast is concerned, if you haven't done so already, we're on iTunes, Acast, Google Play, Stitcher, Play FM. Make sure to check all of those, whichever one. And of course, iTunes is the most important one because we definitely want those reviews, which we haven't gotten in about a month. So please help us out. Again, it's been a month. And of course, guys, finally call us on our phone number to drop us a message on our voicemail. That will be number 1720-600-2679. Again, 1720-600-2679. So again, you could drop us a review about us, or if you want to talk about the whole Doc Schoeniger debacle, we definitely would love to hear your comments about all of it, especially because 720 is a Colorado area code. So hey, might as well take advantage of that. Okay, beautiful. So again, thanks again, guys, for joining us. Like I said, episode 40 of Earful of Dirt Rugby League. Rugby League, Major League Rugby podcast. Excuse me. This is not a Rugby League, not a Rugby League podcast. Let's cut that one off. So again, Brian, thank you very much for joining us, guys. Again, that was Brian Raid. Make sure to, of course, follow him at I don't even know his Twitter handle, Brian.
Rays Rugby, RAYS Rugby.
There we go, Rays Rugby, and of course, check out the website he belongs to, America's Rugby News, to hear all the news about rugby in the Americas. Which, speaking of which, I was reading the article, guys. Dominican Republic lost to Guadeloupe in the Rand Trophy. I thought we're gonna win that. I guess I brought the guys from France, and they just run over the Dominicans. I got a couple of others that were playing in the roster, and we lost. But it's what it is. We got next year. Hopefully, St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be in the tournament, and we'll defeat them because SVG sucks. Everyone in the Caribbean knows that. I know the Dominicans can beat them. If the Dominicans lose to SVG, we suck. Anyways. That was on a tangent. So again, guys. So once again, that was Brian. That was Aaron. That was Cory. Once again, Victor. Hopefully we'll have Josh next week. Hopefully we got Dan's one of these days when he's not working one of these days. So we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good night.
Take care.
See you in New York.